Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to episode number 39 of the Dota Show. That's right, we're almost through. I think this is week number 8, actually. Wow. Yeah, really moving along here. And today we are going to be taking a look. I guess this is episode 38, actually, because I flipped them around. Yesterday I did Carry Tiny. Today is going to be Dota 101. So yeah, technically this is 38. Yesterday was 39, but no big deal. Doesn't really matter too much either way. Today we'll be taking a look at initiation. So we're going to be taking an in-depth look at all kinds of initiation. How do you start fights? How do you win fights? Well, generally you get a good start. That's normally how it goes. So I figured what better place to begin than looking at initiation, and specifically looking at some games from the International too. And the chat is trolling me. That's why I don't read the chat while I'm streaming. But yeah, so before we dive into that, I have a confession to make, guys. I think I've offended the computer gods. It's bad. It's real bad. I don't think you understand. So here's what happened. All right, I reformatted my computer because I got a new USB mixer for my headset, which has an XLR microphone, which is supposed to be much better than your standard headset. I really hate having those microphones then sit in front of you. I find it very distracting and annoying, even though the quality is supposedly great. Also, they pick up all sorts of noises like my keyboard. So I bought this fancy new XLR microphone. It arrived shortly after the International. Then I plugged it in, I set it up, and it wasn't working. And apparently the problem was I had drivers installed for my USB sound card, but for whatever reason, I just could not get them replaced. So what I ended up doing, I couldn't get the computer just to use the right driver. So the solution for me was, alright, I'll just reformat. I'll wipe the computer, and then it'll be good to go. Well, first of all, if you haven't ever reformatted your computer before, there's always something you forget, whether it's a driver or a program, and it takes hours and hours to set up properly. But I finally got it working. I thought I was all ready to go, and that was really just where the fun began. So since then, I want to say I've invested over the past 3 or 4 days, probably 20 hours troubleshooting PC issues, and this is time I neither have nor time that I want to spend on it, but hey, I gotta get it working. My current issue, which you can probably hear, is that delightful audio static in the background for those on the live stream. I think I can remove it for the recordings using Audacity. But if anybody is good with audio stuff and can help me figure out why I'm having the static, I would love to fix it. I would love to remove it. I've had some suggestions. Most of them involve spending more money on audio equipment. What do you know? That's always the solution, right? And of course today, right before when I was preparing for the show, just when I thought I had sort of sorted all the other issues out besides the static, which is the one lingering issue, I started having video card issues. My Dota just randomly crashing, my video card randomly crashing. My computer just locking up and requiring restarts. So I'm praying to the computer gods that they have mercy, that I've sort of finished my sins and I've paid for them, and now I can begin the healing and the repenting and the moving on. But if the stream crashes 20 times, don't blame me, don't yell at me. It's the video card, guys. So there's that. I've offended the computer gods. They still hate me, but what can you do, man? The computer gods are never going to be happy. I think I'm being punished for reformatting my computer, though. I really think reformatting the computer, it took insult to that, and well, it's still making me suffer. But what can you do? So anyway, there's that, and that's a little bit of a frustrating issue for me. What's been going on aside from that? Well, I decided to dip my toes in the water with playing competitive Dota. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I was actually a very good competitive Counter-Strike player a couple of years ago at this point. I wasn't a pro, but I was sort of like that next tier down in the semi-pro status. I could play at a game with pros and hold my own. I probably wouldn't be as consistent or as good as them. But I was closer to that than I was to being sort of a mediocre player. So I was pretty high up there. I was pretty competitive. I won a couple of local events. I did well in online events. I think when I stopped playing, I was in Cal Premier, which for anyone who's not familiar, at this point, I think Cal is defunct. Cyber Athlete Amateur League. Yeah, that's quite a name. But yeah, before I stopped playing, I was pretty good. I was competitive, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun for me. But I put that aside, and it's weird because at this point I think I played Dota longer than I played Counter-Strike, or at least about as long. And I probably put more hours into it, or a similar number anyway, but I've never played competitively. It's just one of these things where it's always been a fun, casual game to me. I didn't find out about the competitive scene until much later into my Dota career, if you will, compared to my how long I was playing Counter-Strike. Like, I think I found out about competitive Counter-Strike within a year of starting to play it. With Dota, I had heard about it, I had watched a game or two, but it never really appealed to me. And so I didn't actually get involved in it until 6 or 7 years into playing the game. Well, maybe more like 4 or 5, but either way, you get the idea. So, I'm going to put my toes in the water there. And one of the other reasons, the main reason I want to do it is just to get an understanding of how to draft from an actual player's perspective. Now, obviously, I may never be as good at it as the pros. There's a reason why they make that money, but I figure the best way to learn more about something and understand it is to do it for yourself. So that's one of the big reasons I want to do it, is just to get a better handle on drafting. But I'd also like to get better as a player so I can talk more knowledgeably about decision making and things like that. The other reason is I can be a little petty at times, I guess, but I really hate being referred to as just a play-by-play commentator, which for whatever reason it's been the verdict of the average Dota internet forum denizen that I am just a play-by-play commentator, that I don't have knowledge, that I should just stick to play-by-play. I really resent that. I don't think it's true now, but I agree there are things I can improve with my knowledge. So I'm hoping that playing competitively is going to get me there. So it's my goal over the next couple of months, as one of my projects related to Dota, just to really study and do my best to prove everyone wrong, but more importantly just to improve my knowledge for you guys so the casts are better. So I'm going to give that a shot. I'm probably going to stream some of my scrims. I'm not sure if I'll stream all of them. And I would love for you guys to give me feedback. Be polite about it, of course. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys think. Maybe I'll even upload some games first person. Because one thing I've noticed, I got to sit on some scrims from Blitz's new teams, which I think is called No Pants Party. So I got to see them play firsthand, see how they drafted, ask some questions. It was very enlightening, but it made me realize people don't really get to see that stuff at all. Now, I'm not a pro. I mean, I know Sinner streams some of his scrims, but basically pro teams, they don't really stream their scrims, or even if they do, they usually mute the microphones in the drafting stage, and then they unmute them once the game starts, which is, it's the part of the game where you really want to know why, not just, oh, here's the heroes they picked, how do those heroes work together, but why are they picking them? So, although I can't promise that what I have to say will be as useful as what those players would, I think it's really important for the scene that, especially for would-be competitive players, that they have something to watch and think about, even if it's only to pick apart all the mistakes that someone like myself is making, and just seeing someone's thought process for drafting and for making calls in game as well. So anyway, that's sort of on the agenda. That's something I'm looking forward to. It should be a lot of fun as well. I guess I made it sound kind of spiteful, but that's only a small part of it. I'm looking forward to it. We played sort of a very casual CM matchmaking game yesterday, and it was sloppy, it was messy. We did win though, so technically the team, whatever we're going to call it, is 1-0 in our scrimmages. Not the results matter in scrims, but I'll take the result anyway. Okay, so that does it for sort of our icebreaker, our warm up for the day. Let's dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is going to be initiation. I'm just checking the chat to make sure that the audio is okay. No, we didn't play an actual team, guys. We're not good. It's just a CM game of matchmaking. So perhaps scrim's not the right word. But yeah, anyway, today's episode is about initiation. Yesterday, we talked about Carry Tiny. I think one of the points I made at least a few times is how he doesn't need to be an initiator, because generally when you play him as a carry, it's up to the team to set him up, or maybe he just follows up with a stun. But if he's going to be set up, and if he's not going to go in first, or if he's not always going in first, that means someone else is doing the initiation. So in this episode, what I want to sort of look in, I think it segues nicely from the last episode. Yeah, I meant to flip them, guys. That's what it is. We're going to look at how can your team set up that initiation for all kinds of engagements. So not just ganks, not just team fights, but a little bit of everything. And with all that being said, before we dive in, I just want to define initiation real quickly. When you watch sort of brand new players play, if you actually just sit in game and just read the chat, I played on a few brand new accounts and had some games with really low level players, and just watched streams like Peering Flax's, for example. A lot of new players will talk about they'll look at their lineup, they'll say, oh, we need a strength hero, or we need a tank. It's, it's sort of this carryover, I guess, from World of Warcraft or even RPG games. More experienced players will look at a lineup and say, we need an initiator. So what is the difference? Well, there is no such thing as a tank in Dota. I guess you could argue that Axe is maybe, because he's the only hero in the game that can force other heroes to attack him. That's what a tank does in traditional RPGs, is they draw what's called aggro. So the enemy attacks them, they focus the tank, and that means they're not focusing, your casters and your damage dealers, whatever you want to call them, your rogues, your wizards. Dota doesn't really have that, again, outside of Axe, but it's not really. It's one hero out of 100 or so that doesn't really mean too much. And even then, he's not really a full-on tank, because he can't do that. He can't constantly draw aggro. He's only got one ability to do it occasionally. So the more experienced players will talk about not about needing a tank, not about needing a strength hero, although oftentimes initiators are strength heroes and they are tanky, but they talk about needing an initiator. An initiator, quite simply, it's just a hero that starts a fight. There's really almost any hero in the game can be an initiator. Now, some heroes are better at it, some heroes require less items to do it, some heroes are better at it at different points in the game, and we're not going to be able to cover everything in this episode. What I hope you walk away from this video understanding is the importance of initiation in general, and some good sort of principles to go about initiating. So with all that being said, let's jump into it. We're going to look at some ganks, some small-scale clashes. We'll also look at some team fights. The two replays I have in store for you are two IG games, actually two games where, spoiler alert, they do lose these games. I love EG, but I just felt that, or IG, I mean. I love IG, and I'm not picking on them. These just happen to be the two replays that came to my attention first when I was doing the research for this episode. So, with all that being said, we're going to jump ourselves inside the game, and let me just make sure I have volume on Dota. There we go. And we'll switch our overlay. And we'll get some video. We'll get some... Come on, Dota. Too loud. Nobody said anything earlier. You guys said it was fine earlier. Alright, let me turn it down. How's that? Let me just copy and paste some things from the chat. Here, real quickly. Hi, LD. All good. Sounds fine. Loud and clear. I hear the voice of an angel. And now you're all telling me it's too loud. Yeah, I know it's dark. Okay. Anyway. Chat is trolling me. Chat not being helpful. But we move along into this episode. Alright, guys. Here we go. So, this match was between IG and EG. This was game number 2. EG does win this game. It was the only game they won in the series. But they played it really well. So... with all that being said, we're going to skip ahead to 13:41 on the replay timer, and we're going to be looking at this mid lane. So we're fast forwarding. Now this is Invoker, a solo mid Invoker going for the Quas Rex build up against CM and Morphling. Until this Invoker gets his phase boots, until he gets some levels. I said free camera. Alright, there we go. Now I get a free camera. Until he gets phase boots, really until he gets his boots at all, he is pretty squishy. Oh, no. Alright, so, right now, this matchup, Crystal Maiden, level 1, Morphling, level 1. Not really the easiest time to kill that Invoker, but what you're going to notice here, he uses Cold Snap on Morphling. So, and generally if you try and tower dive an Invoker, it's going to end very poorly for you, because he'll Cold Snap you, and then the tower is going to be hitting you, so that's making sure the Cold Snap is proccing constantly as often as it can. The hero will be hitting you. And you're just going to drop very quickly to the magical damage, the constant stuns, interrupting your auto attacks, maybe even interrupting a cast animation. But he's used it offensively, so his best way to punish initiation is off the table. And he's only level 2, which means he's not going to be able to invoke anything else. He just invoked Cold Snap and used it. So look at the reaction here from EG. Immediately they know the counter initiation is not there. They choose the right moment. He's poorly positioned as well, because he's not under his tower right now. If Universe just freezes him in place, he's not going to have the tower to protect him. So let's see what happens. And did I write down the wrong time? No. I guess that's a little anticlimactic, I suppose. What the hell? Is this even the right game? Oh, I'm getting trolled. I wrote down 1341. It might... Oh... Okay, I just wrote down too early of a time. But, either way, the same thing happens, but it's with the second cold snap, not with the first. So, he uses the cold snap, and now they're both level 2, which means he's almost certainly dead. But he's too close to the creep wave. The big thing here, it's not his positioning, although that is a problem. It's the fact that he uses cold snap. If he doesn't use it prematurely, he can probably at least do a lot of damage to Fear, maybe even turn this around. If he cold snaps the Morphly when the Morphly waveform's in, but unfortunately he's already used it offensively. The cold snap is now worn off, and he's pretty much dead at this point. Level 2 CM and a level 2 Morphly, and the Nova's going to come out and the waveform on top of it. And right here, if you cold snap the Morphly, you're going to go down, but you're probably going to get a counter kill off of that. In fact, you definitely would. So just having cold snap there at least makes it a 1-for-1. So what I want you guys to notice about that engagement is they're choosing the right moment. They're punishing bad positioning, that's the first thing. He was too close to the creep wave. Again, he was out of the range of his tower. The other issue there is that they're attacking when there's minimal opportunity to counter gank. It's very early. They know there's not going to be any TP scrolls up on the support heroes. Sandkane just has money for one, but you're not going to see a support with the TP this early. And they've only been missing off the middle lane for a couple of seconds here. So it's really the right time to go in for a number of reasons. E.g., they choose their opportunity perfectly, and they set up the kill. So hopefully the rest of the times that I wrote down are correct, but we're going to skip ahead to about 17:03 right now. And we'll leave it on directed so you guys can see what's going on in the meantime. But all the lanes are going pretty well for EG, except that top lane where the Lone Druid is just getting absolute free farm. And Zoe's Lone Druid, pretty scary. Generally, you don't want to give him free farm, but we're going to see that EG just chooses their spots very wisely this game, and when they initiate, it's pretty much picture perfect. Ends up being more than sufficient. So the time we're looking for now is 17:03, and it looks like we're just about to be there. And nope, they're not going to go in, but what we're looking at is not actually that mid lane. We're looking at the smoke gank, which is going to develop. So I want you to notice, they smoke gank, they're going to go mid and look to set something up. Even though there's an observer ward and a sentry ward here, I actually went through the replay twice, and I looked at vision for EG, and I don't think they ever checked this area. And these heroes don't show up on the minimap, even if you have an observer ward and a sentry ward. So even though they have wards here, they don't actually see this gank coming. It's a smoke gank from the Sandkane and the Leshrac. The one thing I want you to notice, look at Sandkane's Burrow Strike initiation range. It's just so low. It's only 400 range at level 2. I believe that's correct. Or sorry, 450 range at level 2. Which means in order to get on top of the CM in the daytime, or even the Morphling, whoever you want to jump, it would probably be the CM, you really have to get lucky. She's got to be in a bad position. Maybe if they caught her out the creep wave, they could go for it. They think about setting up mid, but then they realize they can't. And the question is, well, why are they doing it? It's because of this low initiation range. Smoke of Deceit is revealed at 1025 range, meaning that it's about over double the range of Burrow Strike you get revealed on your smoke gank. So the chances of actually being able to run an additional 600 units after being revealed and then stun, pretty much not going to happen. So they realize they're not going to be able to set up a gank mid because it's daytime. If they were approaching from the tree line, like let's say if you're on this dire squad, but they wanted to wrap around, so they come up here around through their tier 1 tower and then circle around. If they're approaching from the cover of trees, they probably could get this kill, but that's a lot more time to invest in ganking mid. And it can really backfire for you, because if you go that far and then die anyway, you've wasted a bunch of extra time. You also still would be tanking the tower anyway. So this is not an easy gank. It's not a safe gank. They're not going to be able to sneak up on the CM. They don't have the initiation range. So they end up deciding to go top instead. And I don't know why it's not staying on the Sandkane. There we go.
Tower is under attack.
So they go for this gank, and it looks like Rubik is trying to run away, but Bulba just barely gets caught by the Split Earth Burrow Strike. He will go down. So the thing to take away from that engagement is that IG, they understand the limitations of their initiation range, and they actually use it to their advantage. And I just want to show you in middle lane, real quickly, that Invoker will go down again. And the combo here, again, Ferrari just gets too aggressive, just a tiny bit too aggressive. He's standing here, Morphling's back here, CM's over here. CM walks up and frostbites him, and even just a slight positional mistake. If your coordination is good, you can easily punish it for a kill. Ferrari already hitting level 5, Universe already has Sentry Ward, so they will end up getting the kill here. But I just want you to notice how the second that he's slightly out of position, they strike immediately, and they do it without hesitation. It's something you don't see a lot from pub players. Is they'll wait a couple of extra seconds and then go. By which point Ferrari's probably back here, and then if you chase him, maybe he gets away, maybe a TP comes in, or maybe you just dive the tower and end up going down. So the lack of hesitation there is absolutely crucial to getting that kill. So now we're going to move ahead all the way to 20 minutes, and we're going to be focusing on our good friend Demon, the Tidehunter, who has already hit level 6. He's going to have a haste rune bottled. I want you to keep an eye on his inventory here. He's got the haste rune. This means if he ever wants to counter gank, a hasted Tidehunter is pretty much going to be a lost fight for IG. So if they're smart, if they see this, they're going to be very cautious. Demon's off the map. It's only been about 5 seconds. Buys a TP scroll. And he's going to continue pushing bottom. They're going to work on the tower for a little bit. But coming up soon will be a gank featuring Demon in about 30 seconds.
Dire's structures are fortified.
So he's going to TP top, pops the haste rune. And what I want you guys to take away from this engagement is that runes are an initiator's best friend. So if you ever get a haste rune or an invis rune and you're here that can gank effectively, whether it's just a single target gank like a Night Stalker, or even better, a teamfight hero like a Tidehunter, make sure you use that rune to your advantage. So even though I was talking about initiation range, right? Look how far away he would have to run. Now in daytime, even at nighttime, where the vision of the lone druid is going to be less, the chances of actually getting off a gank without having this haste rune are pretty much none, because Chuan's waiting in the trees. He would easily burrow strike Demon when he sees Demon walking up, or just burrow strike after the haste, and then Zoe would be able to run away. But because of this haste rune, Demon's going to easily pick up a kill for his team. So he comes with the haste, telekinesis, and also I want you to notice this is only a level 3 Rubik. That's the other thing to keep in mind here. Is Fade Bolt's only level 2. It's not that much damage. But because of the haste, Demon's able to close the gap easily. You don't need a Blink Dagger when you have this. Chuan gets stunned. Chuan will end up escaping here. A nice little trick by him, burst striking through the trees and then TPing out immediately. But the big sort of takeaway from that particular engagement is, again, that runes can be a very effective way to initiate. You'll see casters and players talking a lot about needing a Blink Dagger to initiate. But sometimes a rune can be even better than a blink, or a force staff for that matter. So now we're going to fast forward ahead to the first of several epic black holes by Milk. But it's not just the black hole I want to watch. It's going to happen over in the middle lane. But in the meantime, we'll go undirected so you guys get some idea of what's going on in the game. So we're going all the way up to 23 minutes. You know what would be cool is if I could just, if anyone from Valve is watching this, if I could just type in a time on the replay, and it would instantly bring me to that exact time. I know you can click through on the bar, but it's not really precise. Maybe that's just me being greedy for features.
Haste.
So this is overall a very smart decision by EG. They have the mech coming soon on the Enigma. I mean, maybe you want to wait for it, but they have Black Hole, they have Ravage, they have a lot of burst damage and AoE. IG is a lineup that really doesn't want to be fighting just yet, and that's why we're going to see EG going for a big engagement mid. So the way this fight starts is with the Bear with phase boots, and it looks like he's going for the Maelstrom build, picked up on the Bear, initiating, and they're going to focus Demon here. The one thing I want you to pay attention to in this fight is just how long it takes to kill off the Tidehunter. Even with only 1 point Kraken Shell, only a stout shield, really not many tank items, he's not that durable aside from the fact that he's Tidehunter. And the thing about Tidehunter is you can try and focus him down, but if you don't have some way to deal with the Kraken Shell, like say telekinesis on your side, which Kraken Shell does not remove, you're most likely going to end up losing the fight because you overextend and get caught by Ravage. So look at IG. The other thing I want you to keep an eye on is Ferrari's positioning in this fight. Cold Snaps Demon to start, that's okay. The Bear's going to start chopping him a little bit. YYF is tracked Fear. They're looking to go in. They do get an Entangled Demon. Faith wants to hit a Split Earth from the high ground to the low ground, and it looks like he will do so momentarily. He is going to hit Demon with the Split Earth. But again, watch Ferrari's positioning. He's gotten caught out by the telekinesis. Now he gets thrown back in. And the reason Ferrari's positioning is so important is if we look at the abilities to cancel Black Hole in this fight. Black Hole, Ravage is pretty dangerous, but Black Hole is what is going to win EG the fight. If a Black Hole catches 3-4 heroes, you're absolutely screwed. And right as Milk is about to fire it off, what can actually cancel this from safe range? Bounty Hunter Shuriken can cancel it, but he's already used it, so that's on cooldown. They were trying to focus Demon, that's why he used it. But he's also too close to Malk anyway. The other thing is Ferrari's Tornado is probably the #1 way to cancel this black hole because it's got long range, it's reliable, you can cast it from a safe distance. Burrow Strike, in theory, yes, it can cancel black hole, but it's only a level 2 Burrow Strike. Split Earth has already been used, so that's not available. Melk is waiting for the right moment here. He knows just about every single spell that can cancel his black hole is on cooldown. All he needs to do right now is catch the Sand King, catch the Invoker, and really he doesn't even need to catch the Sand King. If you angle the black hole correctly, Burrow Strike, the range is too short unless you come from the backside of the black hole to actually cancel it. So we're going to see right now, Melk drops an amazing black hole. Normally you'd think this is a good fight because Ravage only hits one. It only catches out the Bounty Hunter. But Ferrari's caught. That is your #1 counter initiator. You can see Chuan tries to walk in to hit a Burrow Strike, but the range is just too short. He's just not able to get in range. And then an amazing CMO. Easy couple of kills cleanup for EG. But the big thing from this fight, it's not the damage, it's not all the kills, it's just when Melk chooses to use that black hole and the mistakes that IG make in this fight. If Ferrari was sitting just a little bit farther back, didn't allow Bulba to pick him up with telekinesis, maybe if the Sand King was smoked up, trying to circle around from the backside, or if even the Bounty Hunter was sitting farther back with the Shuriken toss, or for that matter, the Leshrac had just held on to Split Earth, any of these things could have turned the fight. Now that's not to say IG would have won the fight. They probably wouldn't have, because they're just not, their lineup's just not very strong at this point in the game, especially with the kind of deficit they have. But had they played it a bit better, they could have minimized the losses. Maybe they only lose 2 or 3 instead of 4, and it's not a total disaster for the team. They end up getting team wiped. I believe Zoe goes down here. No, they end up just pushing. Okay, but either way, 4 heroes dead. Black Hole and Ravage used. Yes, expensive, but for 4 kills, EG will take that. So the big thing there was the patience for Melk, knowing enemy cooldowns. That's another big thing that you're going to want to keep an eye on. Knowing enemy cooldowns and making sure you catch enemies that can cancel your initiation out. And for IG, the big thing is have better positioning on your counter initiators. Which, you know, it might sound like I'm criticizing the players, but these are just the mistakes that happen in Dota because you're human, because there's so many things going on. But the one thing you can try and do as a newer player is just have a big picture understanding of what is your role in these fights. So in that fight, Invoker's big role is to cancel Black Hole, to counter initiate when need be. And now we're going to fast forward. Now we are going to look for another fight that actually doesn't go very well for EG. They smoke up and they go for a big wraparound gank. This one is actually going to go all the way around towards the bottom rune. The one thing I want you guys to notice in this fight is who is leading the way for the team. It's not Crystal Maiden, although she has great initiation range with Crystal Nova. It's got is a 400 AoE and a 700 cast range, so the total initiation range is 1100. It's not the fact that they have a lot of disables. It's not the fact that they're grouped up as 4. It's not even the fact that they almost catch Zoe out by surprise. The only thing I want you to pay attention to is who leads the charge for this team. It's the Tidehunter. And why is this important? Well, he's your most reliable initiator. When I say reliable, I mean a couple of things. He's very tanky. He's got a lot of HP. He's got Kraken Shell. He's got a Stout Shield, and now a Cloak picked up. He's just a very durable hero in general. The other reason he's reliable is that Gush is single target, and it's not anything that can be dodged. So you Gush, and it's going to hit. If you have Blink and you Gush at absolutely the perfect time, I think you might be able to dodge it, but there's nothing like that to worry about in this game. Demon leads the charge, the reliable initiator. He's going to Gush onto Zoe. Now this fight looks very bad for EG because the smoke gets revealed. They chase Zoe so far that they actually run the entire enemy squad for IG. Chuan's going to come in, hit a great Burrow Strike. Oh, yeah, it does catch Melk as well. So he catches 2. Notice for IG, they realize that they need to focus Melk, and the reason they want to focus Melk in this fight is he's a lot easier to kill than Demon. Even though they should know Black Hole's on cooldown, just getting him off the board immediately when he has the mechanism is very important. But he is able to get the mech off, and you're going to see that makes a big difference in this fight. Melk's going to go down here as the fight progresses. Eventually he will take a fall. Faith is meanwhile being focused. So the fight starts to get pretty chaotic here. They led with Tidehunter, so he took a lot of that initial damage, and because they had a mech, they heal him back up. Notice that Ravage is cooling down. They are doing the correct thing by focusing Melk, especially if they've been able to kill him before getting the mechanism off. But now that he's already used the mechanism, perhaps what they should have done is turn back towards Demon, since they know Black Hole's going to be on cooldown for a while at this point. In fact, it's still got almost a minute to go. But Ravage is cooling down. It looks like a good fight at this point. Your Lone Druid and your Bounty Hunter are still alive, and these two heroes are really strong in terms of a right-click war. The supports are being kind of warded off by Fear for the moment. But Ravage is off cooldown. Ravage is going to hit, and it turns the fight around. Had they led with the Enigma or any of the other squishy heroes in this fight, they would have just lost the fight right away. Not because Enigma would, or not because Tide would have died sooner. He would have lived for sure either way, as we saw the mech kept him alive. But if your Crystal Maiden and your Enigma die in this fight, if Bulba doesn't get to use another barrage of spells, you're not going to win the fight. You're going to, yes, you might get a Ravage off, but there won't be the follow-up, there won't be the support to win the engagement. So leading with the correct hero, leading with your most reliable initiator is very important whenever you're going for ganks of any kind. And we have one last example from this game. It's going to be coming at... Oh, that's part of why I'm having issues. I wrote some of the times down using this number, and some of them down using this number. Oh, man. I can't always blame the computer. Certainly not for that one. So, what we're going to see momentarily is something that doesn't actually work, but this is a good decision by IG. They're going to go for a smoke gank here. It's the Sand King Leshrac grouped up. Now, if we actually just look at the ultimates that are online right now, they have Black Hole, and they don't have Ravage. Those are the two big ults for EG. But when Black Hole's up, or when Ravage is up, taking a 5-on-5 clash, especially when you're behind like this to a team that has so much burst damage, is a recipe for losing the fight. So we're not going to see IG go for a 5v5 clash, but they want to try and catch EG out of position. They've seen already EG several times this game, has been aggressive, has been looking for kills. We saw EG go for a big smoke gank earlier. We saw them force a fight mid before with 5. So it's to be expected, and also EG's lineup just wants to be aggressive right now. Because if the game goes long enough, IG has much better late game. All 4 of their 5 heroes scale very well. Whereas for EG, CM falls off. Tidehunter's Ravage eventually won't be as effective. I'm looking farther into the game, but you know EG from their lineup, from the way they've been playing, they want to be aggressive. So for IG, they make a decision to smoke gank behind the lone druid. They want to try and punish the aggression. Now IG, unfortunately, isn't actually going to find anyone with this, but the principle here is still valid, and it's a good play by them. If you can't take a head-on fight, try to trick your opponents into a bad engagement, try to catch them with a man down. They're not really trying to kill the Morphling. They know how hard he is to kill. What they want is to draw in some other heroes to gank the lone druid, and then kill those heroes off. And then from there, maybe you can catch the Morphling out. But killing the Morphling is just so damn difficult. Even if they land all their stuns, they're probably not going to catch him out. So the key here is, if you can't take a head-on fight, then don't go for a head-on fight. Try and either trick your opponents into going for a bad engagement, or catch one out with the smoke gank. So whatever their goal was here, it doesn't end up working out. But I just want you guys to understand that one of the best initiations, in general, is to try and force your opponents into a bad initiation. So you don't have to have a good start to the fight, you just have to make your opponents have a bad one. Okay, that does it for this replay. We now have one more replay, and this is a game that I think will be familiar to a lot of you guys. Should be an interesting one. This may have been a game that I cast at the event, may have been one of the best games of the event. Okay, so we are going to skip ahead. How far are we actually going? We are skipping ahead to 13:15. So this is IG versus Navi game number 2. Now for anyone who didn't watch this game, I'm going to be spoiling probably the most exciting game from the tournament. If not the best game, then certainly the game that the crowd got most into, I gotta say. So, if you haven't watched this game yet, you really should stop watching this, go watch the game, enjoy, whether it's the VOD or the replay, and then you can come back and watch this. From what I heard, Vlat's commentary was absolutely epic during this game as well. So if you want to hear him screaming his head off and borderline crying with delight, then definitely check his out. But either way, it will be a great game. We're gonna skip ahead to 13:15 on the bottom lane, so we're going to be looking at the Shadow Shaman. Arsart only level 1. He's going to hit level 2 soon off of this creep pulling. And he is level 2 now. He's got shackles. And it's Navi, so they're not going to wait long to go for a kill. Here they go bottom lane. Arsart is going to lead the way. YYF, unfortunately, just a few seconds late to realizing that something is up. He's going to spot out the gank coming and then immediately surge away. What I want you to notice is something I talked about a little bit in the last game, but again, the principle holds true here as well. leading with your most reliable initiator. The most reliable initiator here, it's not Puppey with the slow. And when I say most reliable, from game to game, you could have the exact same 5 heroes. But depending on their lineup, one hero might be a better initiator than others. For example, let's say you're ganking a Morphling, and you have a Night Stalker in your team. The best initiator for your team, or even better yet, let's say you have a Puck with a Blink Dagger. The best initiator for your team, it's not going to be a Sandcave with a Burrow Strike, it's not going to be any other stun. It's going to be the Puck, because you can blink in and silence, and then he can't toggle on Morph. If you blink in and you stun, or if you just walk in and stun, he can toggle Morph already before the silence happens. So, who is the best initiator will vary from game to game. But in this particular case, the best initiator when you're up against Darkseer, it's not the hero who has the slow, it's not the hero who has the melee range stun, it's the hero with the range disable, the shackles. That's Arsart. He leads the gank here on the bottom lane, and this will be a first blood for Na'Vi, because Puppey micros this absolutely perfectly. But the thing that we really wanted to watch there was just Arsart coming in first, the fact that he's leading the charge, and the fact that he is the best hero to do so in this particular engagement. Okay, so this game, in spite of how epic the one big team fight is, there's two. I guess there's 2 engagements, but there's really just one big one that happens right around here. But in spite of that, we only have 3 examples from this game, so we're gonna just put it on directed, and we're skipping ahead all the way to 22 minutes or so. And in this fight, what we're gonna look at is the Juggernaut and how he initiates the fight. Okay, so we're skipping ahead, and we're just about there, and we're now going to go to our free camera. So I want you to keep your eyes on Hvost right now. Hvost is Juggernaut. Now, for anyone who's... If you want to sort of understand how Juggernaut can be an effective initiator, well, for one thing, he's got Blade Fear, which gives him magic immunity, but the big reason I think he's a very legitimate initiator is because he has Omni Slash, which is burst damage. The reason Morphling is such a strong pick right now in the scene is because he can go for Ethereal Blade, among other reasons, but one of the big ones is that he can go for Ethereal Blade, which allows you to just burst down enemy heroes instantly. Now notice what Hvost does. Dendy is going to start the fight off with a backstep. Hvost runs in, and he's going to use Omni Slash here to instantly turn what could be a 5-on-5 engagement into a +1 situation for Na'Vi. Gets a little bit lucky with the Omni Slash, doesn't bounce to any of the creeps, but the key thing here is that when they're initiating and instantly turning a 5v5. Well, it's actually not a 5v5, and I'll talk about that in a second. But what could have been a 5v5 is instantly a 5v4 because they burst an enemy hero down. Burst damage is one of the best forms of initiation. Even if that was just a Crystal Maiden they're killing off, killing a hero like that instantly off the bat is a great way to initiate a fight most of the time. Now, there will be times where if you jump in on a Crystal Maiden, their Tidehunter ravages you, or you get Black Hold, then you lose the fight. But as a general rule of thumb, getting a pick off at the very beginning of a fight right away, turning a 5v5 into a 5v4 is going to be very powerful for your team. And so just understanding the abilities here, knowing that Omni Slash can give you that quick burst damage. It was a good play by Hvost, and it's something that, this is something you could do all day in pubs, all day in average gameplay, because your opponents will be in bad positions. This works even in a game where IG, they're a pro team, they have great positioning. Hell, they won the event with it. But, even teams like this will make mistakes from time to time. So, the other thing that I want you guys to pay attention to in this fight is the fact that when Na'Vi are actually initiating, IG is not grouped up as 5. Faith is going to join the fight now, but he doesn't have Ravage. IG never should have tried to take this fight. They should have cut their losses and walked away. They don't have Ravage. They lose the Puck off the bat. Puck even buys back into the fight. Ferrari tries to come mid and set something up. They don't even have the sleep from the Naga Siren. All of these abilities were used earlier when they tower dive mid. But choosing your spots wisely, one of the worst things you can do when your opponents initiate on you is to try and counter-initiate if you don't have your ability cooldowns to do so. Or if you don't have heroes to do so. Like, let's say they just didn't have a Tidehunter, or they didn't have a Puck, or they didn't have a Naga. Or those abilities are in cooldown. If either of those are true, you shouldn't take the fight. Just cut your losses, get out of there with the Puck's death, and maybe buy back and try and defend the tier 2 with some spell spam, but don't actually try to take the fight. It's easy, of course, for us to say spectators, but that is a definite rule of thumb that you want to live by, is make sure that you don't try to counter-initiate, that you cut your losses if you don't have the abilities to do so. The best way to deal with good initiation by your opponents is to try to just mitigate the damage. So now we're going to skip ahead to the most exciting part of this game. And let's see, where is it? It is at 2850, so we're getting close. Na'Vi has been on they've been on the front foot, just pressuring all game, gaining towers, gaining map control. Notice there's a BKB up on Light of Heaven that will become important in about 30 seconds or so. So Na'Vi immediately rotates bottom. They want to keep on pushing. They know they have the black hole up. They know that their Rubik has his 4-staff. They have all their key items to go. And IG, they want to try and get the jump on Na'Vi. They don't just want to run in, because if you just run into Na'Vi have a lot of ways to counter-initiate with the Hex from our side, the BKB black hole, even the Dendi just throwing heroes back with telekinesis, or 4-staffing enemies forward into a bad position. So IG, they go for a big team fight. And spoiler alert, this is the one that wins IG the game. So what I want you guys to keep a close eye on in this fight, it's only one thing. It's the positioning of Zoe in this engagement. Watch where Zoe stands, not as the fight starts, but as he releases his ultimate. So they're going to go in now. He starts off with an amazing sleep. He catches 5 heroes. Now on paper, this looks like an absolute train wreck for Na'Vi. Everyone watching had to be on, absolutely terrified if they're a fan of Na'Vi. 4 heroes get vacuumed in. They don't catch them both. But notice that Zoe is standing right next to Light of Heaven, the Enigma. Light of Heaven is just mashing that BKB key this entire fight. As soon as he gets slept, he's just standing there, mashing that hotkey over and over. That's why you see the BKB instantly get popped. Now, what Zoe should have done in this engagement is stood back. Stand over here, stand over here, stand over here, stand anywhere but stand out of black hole range, because net goes through BKB. It is your one way to cancel the black hole. Now in the heat of the moment, it's completely understandable with so much pressure that he makes this mistake. But this single mistake, if he hadn't stood there, I'm not saying that IG wins this fight. They are down pretty significantly as far as their item progression goes. All they have is a mech. Navi's got a 4-staff up, a mech, and a BKB, as well as just having more levels in general in their heroes. So I'm not saying IG wins this fight, but they get out of here with a lot less damage, if Zoe's position is correct. Unfortunately, stands on top of Light of Heaven, and the rest is for the history books. Black Hole catches everyone, Blade Fury on top of it, Dendi steals Ravage. Everybody's going to melt down to this. But that was a full duration Black Hole on 4 heroes. That is 4 seconds where you're just standing there getting absolutely destroyed by the enemy squad. And that is going to be a team wipe in the end. So the big thing to take away from there is, once again, it's if you have your abilities on cooldown like we saw in the previous fight, then don't try and take the fight. Another example is here, where if you have your abilities ready, sort of like what we saw mid in the previous game with the Invoker from IG, make sure that your counter-initiator is not going to get caught. If you have a Beastmaster, make sure he's out of range so he can roar Enigma as soon as Enigma Black Holes. These sorts of things, it sounds simple, but it's knowing and doing are 2 different things. But the knowledge is power, and this is definitely the first step for you guys. If you want to get better at initiating, one of the best things you can do is learn how to deal with your opponent's initiation. So, I think that pretty much covers it for today. A little bit of a shorter episode, but I hope these examples were helpful to you guys. I'm sure there will be questions. I'm sure there will be things that you guys want to discuss more. So, I'm going to open up the floor now to questions. That was nice, Iron Mask, but he's going to steal Ravage there anyway, because the Black Hole catches Tide. So, any questions about initiation? Nothing? Really, guys? Quiet crowd tonight. Okay, I guess there are no questions, but if you guys do have follow-up questions, you can email me, thedotashow@gmail.com. Yeah, that's not answering that one. But if you guys do have follow-up questions, you can email thedotashow@gmail.com or me directly at ld@lddota.com. I'd be happy to answer them. I hope you guys found this useful. Hope you found it instructive. As always, if you have any feedback, just email it to me. I would love to hear from you all. But I guess that does it for today's episode. So no questions whatsoever, at least none that are topical. Okay, guys, for tomorrow, it's Throwback Thursday with Luminous. You can find that at twitch.tv/luminousinverse. We got rid of the challenge day. Unfortunately, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed casting the games, but weren't getting enough replays. The viewer count was very low. It just seemed like people were not interested. So we're going to go with something different. We're going to try Throwback Thursday. Luminous will be casting old school, probably Dota 1 games, maybe older Dota 2 games down the road, but for now it will be Dota 1. So if you want to catch Lumi, and he may have special guest casters, not sure about that, but If you want to, he's mentioned Ian James Barnett. He's mentioned Jack. So if you're an old school DC fan, he hasn't promised anything, but you may have some surprises to look forward to. But either way, you will have Lumi and you will have some epic old school Dota 1 games. So be sure to check that out tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. But for now, that does it for me. The VODs will be up later today on Twitch and YouTube, and twitch.tv/LDdota, youtube.com/LDdota. Those are the two places to go to catch any of the action you missed from today or previous days. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and for now, that's going to be it.